Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to a special edition of Wrestler Talk. I'm your host with the most, Joe Lance. That's the co-host, JB. Today, special day. Because of the new WWE game coming out, we decided to do a Wrestler Talk on wrestling video games. Now, I know there's a lot of wrestling video games out there, and we're just going to talk about as many that we can think of. Like, my earliest wrestling game I remember playing was Tecmo Wrestling. It used to piss me the hell off.
I probably played that in the past, but my first wrestling game was the one with Hulk Hogan. And he was on the front ripping his shirt off, and like little necklaces would go across. And Andre the Giant, I can't remember what he had. It had like DVI. It only had like 5 or 6 wrestlers in it.
Are you talking?
It was for NES. I think it was just called WWF WrestleMania.
WrestleMania, yeah, WrestleMania. It only had it only had a couple of them. I remember that, yeah.
It was like Hulk, Macho King,
Mm-hmm.
Bam Bam Bigelow. I think it was Bam Bam. It might have been King Kong Bundy. Yeah, it was Bam Bam Bigelow. It had fire.
I remember that game. And then you got the SNES with the Royal Rumble, and I love the Royal Rumble game.
The Royal Rumble game was amazing. I think I liked the Raw game a little better, just because you could go outside, get the chairs,
Yeah.
You could set the matches up a little bit differently, man. But I played that game for hours.
I remember playing that game. I remember waiting for it to come out, and finally it comes out, and I'm like, yes, and I just played it for hours upon hours, till my mom kicked me out of the house.
Oh, man. What about King of the Ring for the NES?
King of the Ring? I remember that one. But actually, no, I didn't remember that one too much until I started playing it recently.
Oh,
that one's not too bad. I mean,
but I think it laid the foundation for the Royal Rumble game and the SNES game and the Raw game. But they had the... I like WrestleMania 2000 and No Mercy.
Yeah,
I think those were the next ones. I think I had one for Game Boy Advance, or not Game Boy Advance, but the old green Game Boy.
Yeah, those two are usually the top 2 wrestling games for most people that play wrestling games.
But that's a hard statement to make with how far we've come along. I mean, WWE 14 may be the greatest wrestling game of all time.
It's looking like it's going to be pretty awesome.
It's definitely shaping up that way.
Just by the roster itself, it's just going to be awesome.
I remember when I was a little kid, you always have on the SNES, you might have 10 or 12 people to pick for. And, I was like, man, I wish you could just type someone's name in and you could play as them. Pretty much that's what it is nowadays. I just want a game that has all the wrestlers, all their costumes. You can customize their costumes.
That'd be nice.
Make your own players. I mean, you can already do all that, but I just want unlimited possibilities. And we're pretty close to that now.
Pretty close to it.
Just some online problems, but they might have fixed that up.
Yeah. They've even had a couple wrestling arcade games.
Oh, yeah.
They had, one was
WrestleFest.
And then
they had your boys Demolition in that.
It had Demolition in it, and then they had one that had the Road Warriors.
Yeah.
It was like the Royal Rumble one.
Yeah, I forgot they made that one. The second one to that. But they were supposed to make an updated version of WrestleFest for Xbox Live Arcade and PS3 and iPhone and all that shit.
I have to take a look at it. Yeah,
they stopped making for some reason. I mean, there's screenshots and stuff of it, and you could play as John Cena versus Demolition.
Yeah.
But it should have came out with that.
They've had some really good games, and then they've had some really bad wrestling games. I mean...
WCW Thunder. Backstage, you got the cattle pride. Hollywood Hogan stunning Goldberg, just shooting him through a wall.
Thunder was just awesome, but my favorite game for the PlayStation was WCW versus the World.
I liked Revenge, the one that had Raven on the front.
The Revenge was a good one.
You got the stop signs. You could go backstage. The tables were awesome. I just like being able to go up the ramp, go around, go backstage, and I mean, you could do those in the WWE games.
Yeah. But I think that the game that really, set everything else apart was Raw versus SmackDown.
Yeah, you're right.
Because I think that one just totally set everything apart. Because
well, it used to just be called SmackDown.
Yeah, SmackDown, and then
the first one was called the first one was called WWF SmackDown. The second one was called Know Your Role,
and then the other one was Shut Your Mouth or something. I don't know.
I know there was one, Here Comes the Pain.
Here Comes the Pain, and
all kinds of stuff. I wonder what number they're on, actually.
I have no idea. I think that they stopped numbering now. This is WWE 2K14 now.
Yeah, now they go by years.
It's going to be awesome, dude. This roster is going to be Big John Studd. I mean, King Kong Bundy. Yokozuna.
I guarantee he'll be able to break the ring.
Oh, I can guarantee you. It's just, I love wrestling video games.
What about the one that had it? They could have did so much more with it and made it more fun just by adding more characters. But the one that had Doink the Clown where he'd smash you with the hammer. I think it was WrestleMania Arcade.
Yeah, it was the other WrestleMania game. Yeah, you had Yokozuna when you hit him chicken rings and stuff would come flying out of him.
Yeah. What about well, you mentioned WCW NWO World Tour or Versus the World, whatever I think it's called World Tour.
I don't remember which one
but,
it was.
That was going up head to head with WWF Warzone.
Yeah.
One had I don't know if it had Austin. Did both of them have Austin on the front?
I think so.
Because I know Attitude did.
I remember those games. I didn't really like those games too much.
Well, I played them because that was what system I had.
But yeah,
but they were kind of they had ICP in there. You should have liked that game.
Yeah.
I thought that was weird that I guess they were in the oddities at the time.
Yeah, the ICP's been in just about every wrestling federation.
Were they in? I'm not sure if they were in EC. Yeah, they probably did a stint in ECW.
I don't know if they were in ECW.
I think during the Great Malenko days, they might have came out and cut a promo to advertise.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure of it.
But yeah, I could play wrestling games for hours.
Did you play any on the GameCube?
Yes, I did. I played all the wrestling games on the GameCube.
X8. What about Crushing Hour?
Yeah, I played that one too.
That game was different, man. I obviously it wasn't a wrestling game, but
yeah,
it's just weird. I look up gameplay footage of it today, and I'm like, man, that game is so weird. It's right along the lines with the XFL.
Yeah.
It's which I think could have I probably would have watched that if it would have took off.
I would have to say that my top 3 wrestling games of all times are WrestleMania, No Mercy, and last year's WWE game. I love last year's WWE game. I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, I do too. I'm going to say my favorite one would probably be No Mercy. Last year's WWE 13. And probably WWE Raw for SNES. Just because I played it for hours and hours and hours.
And you can't forget tag team wrestling for the Nintendo. You only had 2 tag teams. You could be the tag team with the mask on, or you could be the other guys. And
that was probably so popular back then.
It was an awesome game. I think everybody has played that game.
Let me be the mask guy. Let me be the mask guy.
Yeah, it was crazy. And
kids were so stupid back then.
it's
you could barely tell that there were arms punching. What about Fire Pro Wrestling? You ever play that?
I did play a little bit of it. I got it when it came out for the, I think it was the Xbox or the PlayStation.
They had Fire Pro Wrestling Returns for PlayStation 2.
Yeah, that's the one.
It had the generic Legion of Doom and a bunch of people that look like WWE superstars and legends, but they were named different.
Yeah, but now on the PlayStation Network, they have a revised version of it with new wrestlers and stuff. So that one was actually pretty cool.
I did not know that.
Yeah, most people like those games because of the violent matches and stuff, like the ball wire and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, I remember when ECW
It's like
came.
playing the Super Nintendo.
Yeah, I remember when ECW came out with the video game, and it was talking
Hardcore
about
Revolution.
hardcore, and I was like, yes.
They had 2 of them.
Yes, I was like, yes, it's gonna be an awesome game. It's gonna be violent, and it sucked.
Yeah. It had like you could. It might have been the first game with flaming tables, right?
Yeah, it sucked.
That's like the only thing WWE stole from them.
It sucked.
What was the second one like? Anarchy Rules?
Yeah, Anarchy Rules.
They played just like the Warzone and the Attitude.
Yeah.
Game. That's probably why you didn't like it.
I just didn't like it, and just the barbed wire matches sucked. And, and then the WWE games started coming up more again, and I was like, yes, the buried alive matches. And
yeah, the one thing I didn't like about the ones from like 2007 up until they kind of redid it recently, like in 2012, was the loading screens take so freaking long, man.
yeah.
Especially the 2007 through 2009 games. They just take so long. And, I mean, they didn't even have that many superstars that I really liked back then.
Exactly.
You know, who wants to play as... I don't even know if you can play as Simon Dean or not, but I'm sure he's in there somewhere.
I don't know. Simon Dean. Oh, man, I remember him. Man.
I don't know what... I know there was a Capcom wrestling game. I can't remember what that was
Yeah,
called.
there's been all kinds of... There's been WCW wrestling games, and, I mean, so many wrestling games. Of course, you know, if you play the wrestling games now and then you go back and play, like, WrestleMania for the Nintendo, it's like, this completely sucks. But you gotta realize that that's the kind of technology that they had back then, so.
Yeah, I mean, that was the best. They were working with what they had. I mean, it's memories for some people.
Exactly.
I guess that's part of being a gamer, though. You go back and play those games. I'll play NES, I'm like, man, it takes me way back to the innocent years.
I'm telling you.
I can't think of any other wrestling games off the top of my head. They just came out with one for the Xbox Live Arcade. It's Action Arcade Wrestling.
Okay.
Well, it's supposed to be like Fire Pro Wrestling, except you use your Xbox character to wrestle and stuff. So,
That's not too bad. I might have to check it out. They've had...
well, they actually just released the sequel to it.
Gotcha.
So.
They even had a TNA wrestling game.
Oh, God. I had the one, what was it? It might have been TNA Impact. It had
Yeah. Sucked.
They have like they have 2 games, right?
2 or 3, yeah.
Because it came out for PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and then they like redid it for the Wii and DS or something.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Now, I'm going to get away from the wrestling games for a second because I'm going to talk about the worst game I've ever played that used to make me want to break everything in my house. Pit Fighter.
Oh, man.
Pit Fighter would make me literally want to go and just smash everything in my house because I would get so mad at that game.
Dude, I have a similar story, kind of, not as bad. I remember when I was little, my dad had an Atari and he hooked it up so I could play it. And I was playing E.T. I don't know if you know.
The worst video game ever made is so bad of a game that they literally took all of the games and buried them. That's how bad it was.
Because you could get stuck in one level and not be able to get out.
Exactly.
And I used to get stuck there all the time.
Exactly.
I remember being in there for hours.
And you had that thing chasing you and...
Yeah. And I got older and read about like how it was, broken. You couldn't get out of there.
Yeah.
And I was like, all this time I never
It was one of the worst video games ever made.
Like the clouds parted ways and the sun shined down.
To this day, one of the worst video games ever made. Ah.
I mean, I had fun with it until that part. I never could get past that part.
Alright folks, well that's it for this edition. We're going to be doing another edition of Wrestler Talk, talking about the wrestling stuff that we usually do. So check into that and talk to you later.